everybody, to the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup season. We're at Sigulda in Latvia for the final race of the year. And as always at Sigulda, it is double two-man here. So, yesterday's winner, Johannes Lochner, looking for another victory to claim the Crystal Globe as the World Cup champion for the very first time in two-man. Hello everybody, welcome back to Sigulda, welcome back to the snow as well as the fans here. Martin Haven and Liz Meyer ready to watch the action, and if we know anything, we know it should be pretty entertaining, Liz.
Definitely. This is a very exciting track. We're going to see some strong pushes here. It's a bit of a flat start. And then as the guys get loaded into the sled, they're going to head into these first two corners. Now, these first two corners, kind of sleepers. There's not too much going on. This is a big right-hander for corner one. May see some sleds tapping between 1 and 2, which saps your speed from the start. This is big corner 2 before we head into this first top labyrinth, into 3, 4, and 5. Quick transitions for these sleds into big corner 6. Now already into our second labyrinth, 7, 8, and 9. It feels like a washing machine, and then into 10 to set you up for tricky corner 11. Gonna see some sled taking that left-handed tap as they head into 12, setting up for another tricky core of 13 and another tricky one as well as 14. Into this long straightaway, which is gonna set you up for this high-pressure corner. Sleds are gonna be getting close to the roof as they head into this small uphill section over the brow and into the final curve, which is a Kreisel 360-degree curve, taking a tap and across the finish line.
And it all happens in just 50-odd seconds. Very, very busy for the drivers on this track. So here's the World Cup standings. Essentially, unless Johannes Lochner is outside the top 9 and Francesco Friedrich wins, Lochner will be the World Cup champion. And likely he and Friedrich will be very closely tied for the overall combined title. But there are also other places up for grabs as well, with a few movers and shakers in the field today. As you can see from the shots, it is snowy outside. Here is the finish area, the grandstand just across from where the athletes pull in, and that's covered like the rest of the track. Yeah. Hansi Lochner, Greg Kackett, and Torsten Margis, part of today's field. There's Francesco Friedrich, the 7-time world champion, 2-time Olympic champion in two-man, multiple World Cup champion, and a 7-time winner on this track as well in the two-man. Now, he finished in the silver medal position yesterday, and undoubtedly he and Torsten will be going for another win together. We'll wait and see what happens. Our start draw is slightly different from yesterday because we have Adam Amor and his brother Issam Amor. They will be going off at 3 in the third of our German sleds. Then 8th off, Hansi Lochner, 9th off, Francesco Friedrich, and just ahead of them will be Brad Hall, 7th off the top. At the top here means the 5th floor of the start building. Martin Haven, Liz Meyer watching the action for the final two-man race this season, as is Damas Jaskins from the back. Checking out Jakobs Kalender and Arnis Bebris getting us underway. Bebris in the back of the sled. Only 2 drivers have kept yesterday's brakeman. We'll get to them later.
5:01 push start. 4:75 is that track wreck, so we're going to see if someone gets close to that today, but it is a snowy day on the track.
Yeah, and blustery a little bit as well. Yesterday, very much wind-affected starts. Down the track, though, the roof is over everywhere, and that should help keep the snow out and keep the wind down as well. Calendar, of course, home ice for him. This is where he grew up learning to drive, so very much in his own backyard.
This is a smooth-looking run that he's putting down.
Right up until you mention it, and then he skidded out to 14, predictably. A little drift out of 15. Nicely into the Kreisel that ends the run here. And across the line, 50.79. Now, I have in my hand a piece of paper. And if I can find, yesterday he did a 50.62 and a 51.27. So that's kind of where he was yesterday.
Big sliding country in Latvia. They're super excited for their athletes.
They definitely are.
Yeah, it's great to hear, and it's great to have so many spectators back on the track. Now he takes this tap between 11 and 12. I would bet to say we're going to see most athletes taking that today because it sets it up nicely for 12. This is out of 14 into that big long straightaway. He takes a small skid and takes that bump on the left side before he goes straight down the pipes, heading for big corner 15.
So on the right there, Jakob's calendar and Arnis Bebris on the back of the sled. Brake change too for Mate Behunek. He has Dalibor Havelka behind him. Dalibor making his two-man World Cup debut. In fact, the brakeman has done one single two-man race. That was in November. And Matti, well, it's his second two-man start. His first was yesterday, called up because of the injury for Dominic Dvorak that required surgery before the World Championships. So he did the Worlds before he did a World Cup start. Well, yesterday these guys finished in 12th place after a battle with their teammates Adam Dubeš. They led Dubeš after the first heat. He overhauled them in the second.
And like you mentioned, this is only his second two-man race at the senior World Cup level, so this is for experience for him, especially on a track like this.
Yeah. And Behunek, his previous race here, January 2023, he was in the Europa Cup here, so just about a month ago, before he was called up to World Cup, gets knocked away there. And late, but just holds onto it out of 13. See the snow really blowing here. Nicely into 16, that just fell really well for him. And across the line, 2400's back, a 51.03. Yesterday, 12th place. His only World Cup start in two-man, and therefore his career high. So he'll be looking for a little bit more maybe today. So,
just a little bit, some messy transitions by this young athlete. Gonna see him 13 to 14 here, really aggressive, and he's going to be a big take on, get a little bit of airtime, not quite, as he heads into 14. And then because of that bumpy entrance, you can see him hauling off on the runners, on the front runners are changing, trying to get him off that corner, but it just puts him into an aggressive transition into this super long straightaway, which is where the top speed is on the track.
You can see all the fans watching outside in the snow, as well as here at the finish. Can't get to the start here because it is upstairs and very much sealed off from the public. Now then, World Cup debut for brothers. Adam Amor driving and Issam, his older brother, 29. Adam is 21. So it's the first time they've raced together in the World Cup. For Issam, it's his 7th World Cup start. He's also got a 4-man race under his belt. And Issam, in fact, has done 4 of his previous 6 World Cup races here in Sigulda with Christoph Hafer. So Adam Amor, the junior world champion in two-man, crashed out of the Worlds in Samoritz, but a 486 is epic starting.
Especially with the conditions right now. Now, I know that these both brothers are super strong, and the pilot has been breaking Friedrich's records on push tracks.
Yeah, and Issam Amor has always been one of the strongest. Best speed for Adam Amor. Yesterday, Max Illman got the two-man slot, and he was the silver medalist in the World Championship, Junior Worlds. He finished in bronze medal position yesterday, half a second up on Jakob's calendar. This is a really nice drive from Adam Amor. I mean, he looks like he's been doing it for a decade. Across the line, 50.07. Right, let's put that into context. In the first heat yesterday, 50.07 would have left him in 3rd place.
I mean, it really just shows the depth of this German program. They can swap pilots between races, and they're still going to be fighting for medals.
Yeah.
Bit of an aggressive transition into 13. Gets really high in that first pressure, and it builds so much on the exit. Now, as he heads into 14, he's going to just get another aggressive transition. You can see the sled get bumped away and really throw the driver's head around. And then as he exits 14 into this long straightaway, it's a bit of a flop on the sled. But the runners end up staying quite straight as he goes down that long straightaway past the spectators.
There's Adam and Issam at the back of the sled. So, Adam Amor leads. Cedric Folador is next up. Change of brakeman for him as well today. He's got Nicola Mariani on the back. Nicola making his 4th World Cup start in 2-man. Yesterday for Cedric Folador, a 2nd time on this track. He finished in 11th place yesterday. 7th World Cup of his career in the 2-man. Can hear Chris Woolley yelling at the top. Let's see what they can start. Anything close to 5 will be good. 5:09, that's not bad at all.
And you're right about we're going to see a lot of swaps and brakemen today. Because of the double 2-man race, it's kind of an opportunity to compare many brakemen.
Yeah. And also a chance to give somebody, you know, your guy who might be maybe 1 or 200 slower, he will be fresh, and the guy who pushed yesterday may not have those 1 or 200s still in the bank. So Folador dropping back a little now from 2300s back at the start to 4/10ths back. Still second best speed though. And right now, the gap from 1st to 2nd is over 7/10ths. So this will be the second fastest run. Cedric Folador at the line, 4800s back, 50.55.
It's a pretty clean drive by him.
And quicker than his first or second heats yesterday. So that's his best run down the track so far this weekend.
The difference we're seeing in time from Team Amor is certainly from the start. That's where they're losing that speed, velocity, and timing.
Yeah.
Quickly hops in the sled. He's got to get that trigger down to get the push bar put away. And then this is out of 14 into that long straightaway. A little bit of a skid there, and he's going to go towards the slider's left wall, but just shies away from it as he heads into big 15.
So Cedric Folador and Nicola Mariani, 1 more to go in the season. They don't all go to the beach, by the way. Most of them will go straight back to another ice track to do more training. But for Latvia, Emil Tsipulis, 4th place yesterday, tantalisingly close to a medal. His best ever World Cup result in his so far short career. This is only his 11th World Cup start. Edgis Neme behind him, also making his 11th 2-man World Cup start. I'm not sure, it's hard to tell, but I think the crowd might be quite on their side. Fantastic noise from our crowd here in Sigulda. 4:99 getaway.
Wow. Takes that bump between 1 and 2, which just warps all the speed from the start.
Yeah, 3 to 4 everybody is hitting, but 1 to 2 is costly. Now then, a little bit foggy on the lens there. I don't think it's suddenly become foggy. Nice smooth run into corner 6. And down in the second part of the labyrinth, because it is one just long roller coaster, isn't it? All pretty clean. Extra 13. Hangs it off nicely. Extra 14. Come straight, baby. There we go. Now, 4/10ths back, but what can he bring at the bottom of the track? Yeah, 3rd best speed. And he'll be behind Adam Amor as well by 4,500s with a 50.52 run. Now that is 4,700s quicker than teammate Jacobs Kellender. So the 2 Latvian sleds right now, 2nd and 4th. And don't forget, both of these guys are sort of effectively Latvia 2, Latvia 3, because we don't have Oskars Kibamanis, the top Latvian driver here now, in that snow, and there is a lot of it there, as well as the bump. That is, I mean, you know what it's like with a road car. When you hit standing water, suddenly that wheel stops. That's exactly what they will have felt there.
Definitely, and the snow can affect the driving as well, so it could pull you more into the wall than you would normally go.
And again, down those straights, out of 14, out of 15, the snow is right up against the wall. That's where it's eddying as the sleds go by. So the closer to the wall, the more snow. Adam Amor, our early leader in Sigulda. 5 sleds into the final two-man bobsleigh race of the season. Martin Haven and Liz Meyer watching Adam Dubeš and Ondřej Razdil. Razdil making his two-man World Cup debut. Again, a brakeman who has only done a single two-man race. That was Europe Cup in Innsbruck in January 22. And his driver, Adam Dubeš, only in his 6th World Cup start of his career. Yesterday, a 10th place finish equalled his World Cup best.
5:07 start.
And yesterday, his first heat was not great, was it? He really had to bring the fat out of the fire in heat 2 to pick himself up from 13th spot to 10th.
Definitely, and he took that tap 1 to 2, just a little bit messy here on the top part of the track.
He actually had the 6th fastest heat in heat 2 yesterday.
Really
so
high.
He can drive this track, it just doesn't always look like it.
Yeah. Really wild here.
Yeah. Steadying the ship, but almost the slowest sled. I think teammate Matti Behenik might be the slowest. Got a little bit more speed out of the Kreisel, 5th at the line, 50.96. So he is 700ths ahead of Behenik. So he's not having great drives in heat 1, is he?
No, he can bring it back for run 2. We saw that yesterday, so he's going to take everything he learned from this first heat, put it out of his head, learn from it, and go for the second run.
Yikes.
You're going to see this transition very abrupt into 14. Really throws the pilot and the driver around, putting the sled sideways, aggressively steering just to try and get it off. He drops a runner. You can see how much ice that's cutting, which is just sapping the speed out of the sled. Fighting that left wall all the way into 15.
That was actually slower than his first heat yesterday, but still, Behenik had a disappointing first run. Now then, Greg Cackett was in the commentary box yesterday. He is now on the back of the sled for Brad Hall. Reunited the first time since the race in Lake Placid, the final race before Christmas. You see there, Greg and Brad. Now, these two have been together for a long while. Taylor Lawrence there watching in the background. You can see the snow blowing into their faces at the start as well. Greg will be really keen to get a nice quick load, 493. That's a good getaway.
That's a good strong start. A nicer entry into corner 2 than Brad had yesterday, so they should be able to push that speed from the start down the track.
900ths is the gap to Adam Amor, our current leader. Last time we're here, last season, Brad Hall took silver on day 1 with Greg Cackett, silver on day 2 with Nick Gleeson. A 10th in it, better speed than the German sled. Here we go. Now this is nice and clean at the bottom. This is where it comes back. From 900s to 700s to 700s back at the bottom. Amor did have great speed.
Pretty tidy looking run from Brad there.
Yep. Well, he was 5th yesterday and 2nd right now. I'm liking Amor's chances of being a shock first heat leader right now.
You can see Brad quickly loading into the sled, getting his hands on that trigger to get the push bar down onto the D-rings to look into corner 1. Now, corner 1 to 2 yesterday, he took a tap on the right side, but he was able to stay away from it, although staying in the snow the whole way down to corner 2.
And of course,
this is out of 14.
The next 2 sleds will have plenty of snow there as well, even if they're straight. So, actually, the track it's getting a little slower there. Watching the replays and sorting out the sled as well as playing to the crowd. So there is snow in that run down to turn 2. Hansi Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer combining now for the 6th time in a World Cup race. In their previous 5 World Cup outings, they have infallibly taken gold, and they combined for the 2-man gold in the World Championships in St. Moritz as well. This is Johannes Lochner's season of seasons in 2-man. He's never been a bad 2-man driver. He's always been just a little bit better in the big 4-banger. but not this year. Oh, now what did...
489.
489, that is a huge start.
And I'd say Fleischhauer adding to Team Lochner this year just really has helped with their starts.
Yeah, that's made the big difference. It means that Hansi comes out of the traps at the same speed at least as Francesco Friedrich.
Yep.
And that allows his driving to shine, and having that advantage, or having that speed at the start, has just revealed a new Lochner. Look at this, out of 14, straight as a die. And again, out of 15, over the brow into 16, like it's no drama. Second best speed, but he's going to lead at the line. 1600s up, 49.91. Well, yesterday,
a little bit wild there in some areas, so he has some bits to clean up too.
Yesterday a 49.74 and a 50.63 slide, so not as quick as his first yesterday, but definitely right in there.
Here he is into 11, controls it quite nicely, nice and flat on the exit. He's going to take that tap from 11 to 12, puts him into a better position as he heads into 12. Now out of 14, he sticks the landing. This is one of the nicest exits we've seen, and down the straightaway into big 15.
He is having absolutely bundles of fun here. He really is. It's never a bad day when Johannes Lochner is around, and Fleischhauer just adds to that. So, Francesco Friedrich with his reliable stalwart Torsten Margis. Last time out in Innsbruck in the four-man, Margis claimed his 50th World Cup win in two-man and four-man behind Francesco Friedrich. Friedrich with 46 wins in two-man. Will that be 47 today? He's had 7 wins on this track alone. 492. There you go. That's what Fleischhauer brings to the party. They start 300 slower than Johannes Lochner.
Definitely. Friedrich's been struggling with a little bit of an injury this season, but he's mostly back to fitness now.
Yeah, he definitely is. That's how they managed to rip out a 499 final push in the four-man race in Innsbruck. Little skid there onto 11. Neat and tidy so far, though. He's in the red by 1600s. This is him versus Adam Amor for silver right now. He is tied with Amor all the way down. He's not with Lochner. This is the battle for silver. Quicker than Lochner in the final corner. Single digits? No. Still 16 at the line. 50.07. Tied to the 100th. He was tied with Amor from the second clock. He's been tied with him all the way down. And again, that just shows the quality of Adam Amor.
Definitely. Amor's a very strong athlete. We know Friedrich is a strong athlete. A bit of an aggressive transition as he heads into corner 14. Really shoots the sled up and high into that curve so that he has a little bit of different pressure. He comes off of the corner a bit sooner than we've seen other sleds, which pushes him into that left side and then just drifts a bit right as he heads into 50, which is a lot of pressure for that sled.
Final thought, Friedrich's 91st two-man World Cup race alone, Adam Amor, with whom he is tied, is in his 8th two-man race ever. I know.
A little bit different.
Yeah, the experience may well shake out in terms of Francesco Friedrich having the advantage there. However, Patrick Baumgartner next up. Yesterday, 7th place, and a 7th place here in November 2020 are his best ever World Cup results. So the Italian, who does not have a home track on which to race, obviously, has his best World Cup results here in Sigulda. So we know from that he is more of a driver than a starter.
Definitely. We've seen this for a long time with Baumgartner. Oh, big skid onto corner 1. He struggled a bit with the start, but he's got some strong guys behind him this year in the four-man.
Well, Robert Messier stays with him today, pushed with him yesterday. Georg Fleischhauer, of course, is the other brakeman who also raced yesterday and stayed with his driver, Hansi Lochner, for the second run. little bumpy there from Baumgartner in those transitions, 7, 8, 9, and a little tap on the wall that everybody is taking.
Very wild.
Oh boy, I think Robert Messier in the backseat probably felt a little nervy just then. Not bad speed, 4th best, 9th start and 7th at the line. How close behind Folador? 300s behind Folador and 600s behind Kikulis, who is in 5th. So there's your battle just outside the top 4. It is Baumgartner versus Kikulis versus Folador to be best of the rest.
Gonna see this transition into 13, and he just misses the steering a little bit on that first pressure, so he got so much height, which then just pushes it further into the corner, makes a very aggressive transition as he heads into 14. Big height, start of 14, and you're just having to fight the sled the whole way, especially before this big straightaway. It just takes the speed out of the sled. He has pretty straight runners as he heads down into big 15.
Patrick there on the left-hand side with Robert Messier. Best results here are 7th places. He's in 7th place. There he is. As we have our first 10 sleds down. 3 to go in Heat 1, and then they will all go in reverse order in Heat 2. Big day for the Chinese bobsleigh team yesterday, with Ying Qing taking the first medal for them in a World Cup race. That was in the mono. And today, the girls had another good day. Ying finishing in 4th spot in the women's race. Li Chunjian with Chen Heng behind him. Chen making his 3rd World Cup start. Raced in Eagles last year and in Altenburg this. And looking to improve on yesterday's 8th place.
4:97, that's a pretty quick start by this Chinese team.
And we saw that in the women's race this morning, didn't we, Elizabeth? That the Chinese pairs, both of them, were right in there in the top 3 or 4 starts.
Definitely. They've really come along with their starts, I'd say, in this last season or so, are really starting to become more competitive on that start.
Absolutely right. Well, 5th best start, 5th at the moment on the splits. This is Li Chunjian having a very good run. And again, we saw this in the women's race and yesterday with Li. Good control of the sled. Now that might make you empirically a kilometre an hour slower at the bottom, but it means that you're hitting and skidding much less on the way down, and there's the result. Best of the rest, 50.47. He is in 5th place.
That was a pretty good run by him. A little bit messy in those straightaways, but that's going to come down to experience as well.
Yeah. And Yanis Minins here with his back to us, the coach, should just be going, yeah, we'll tidy up 12, we'll have a look at 11, don't worry, it's fine. And I do think just possibly that here, because it's such a tough driver's track and so easy to make mistakes, they may be running on a slightly thinner runner than you might use somewhere like Innsbruck, just so they've got that control. Yep. They look like they've got the sled.
Definitely, and when we're talking about runners, that's the bit of metal that's touching the ice. You can choose which ones you would like to race on with different diameters, different rock or bow that's in those runners, and depending on which you choose, gives you more or less grip.
Yeah, that's a nice looking run. So, Li Chunjian in 5th, ahead of Emil Sapoulis, Cedric Folador and Patrick Baumgartner. Now can Mickey Vogt, back with Sandro Mikkel behind him, put himself in amongst those, or into the medals. His 40th World Cup race. 2 silver medals, 5 bronze medals, including silver on this track in race 4 in 2021.
4:96, 5th best start.
Started strongly yesterday with a 5 and a 5:10 with Cyril Bieri. The second wind affected, but 2 6th place runs left him in 6th position overall. Up to 3rd place on the splits, and look at the speed. He's got to be super clean out of 13 here. Nice transition into 14, and just about lands it. Has to have a little adjust on landing. 15, uphill into 16. Here we go. Still got good speed on board.
Close.
Is this second? No, drops behind Friedrich and Amor by 100.
By 100.
That was second into the exit of the Kreisel, and the speed just wasn't quite there. So 50.08. We have Adam Amor, Francesco Friedrich, and Mickey Vogt covered by 100th of a second behind leader Johannes Lochner.
We got quite the battle for this medals for this second
race. This was a good drive. This is the best we've seen of him here in Sigulda.
Definitely. I would say a little bit of a rough transition there, 13 to 14, and then just a little bit extra height on the exit of 14. But so many athletes have been doing that. Extra height, skidding, tapping down this big straightaway. Didn't affect him too much. Maybe a little bit of his speed went away, but overall, a very nice looking run. Again, yesterday, a frosty track. Today, a little less so. It was very cold. Well, not very cold. It was cold overnight, enough to make the ice really quite brittle and the track faster. Well, let's see what our final slider can produce. Markus Treichel, he's got Opper back on the sled. Markus Sammer, 34-year-old veteran of the Austrian program. And Markus took a bronze medal here in January 2022 with Benjamin Meyer, someone you may know. Wave to Benny through the door. He's on daddy duty today as Liz is working. So let's see what Markus can produce. Crashed out in the second heat yesterday, but still completed the race. 4.96 getaway, and really pleased to see Treichel back in the sled. It was a heavy landing yesterday, wasn't it, Liz? Definitely. He just unfortunately took that roof tap in 15, shot him down. It was a struggle to keep it on the runners. Yeah. A struggle that gravity won and Markus lost, I'm afraid, but yeah, a big 70-mile-an-hour plus crash. Sixth best speed from Treichel. So he is hanging it out there. I mean, this is not a track that you could sort of negotiate gently. You just basically have to wrestle it. All right, not so high in 15 this time, but the long speed into 16. Yeah, this is robbing him of speed. They were 5th at the start, they've been 6th all the way down, but 8th at the line, and those two long straights, you know, they can just murder you as sure as look at you, and it's similar in a lot of ways to the bottom part of Winterberg. You can be right in there, and all the speed goes away, and here as well. All right. Definitely. There's a smile on his face under the helmet there. Sasha Stepan on the front of the sled. He was in the back of the sled yesterday with Treichel as well. Here he comes off of 14 really aggressively. He bumps the sled on that right side. And it's that little expansion joint sticking out there that snagged the sled, isn't it? It's really hard to bring it back with a bobsled in a straightaway just because they're so heavy and they don't steer very well if there's no pressure on the sled. So when they're in the curves, they can adjust the sled with the pressures, but when it's in a weightless situation, no dice. Celebrated his 100th World Cup start a few races back in North America. Markus Sammer still giving it all the go. And once more, Johannes Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer teaming up to produce the fast starts. Not quite the fastest. That honour goes to the man who leads the chasing pack, Adam Amor and Issam Amor, his brother. But Lochner and Fleischhauer, 1600ths of a second clear. And Hansi still with a few things he can tidy up. So I don't think anybody's going to walk away going, yep, I can't possibly get any better than that down this track. Look at the battle behind Lochner then. Amor, Friedrich, Vogt, that's a dead heat. Those three sleds covered by 100th, and then Brad Hall 600's back. So you've got 5 sleds arguing over 3 medals. Somebody is going to be disappointed. Markus Treichel, Cedric Folador, Patrick Baumgartner, 500ths of a second for 3 sleds. There's a nice little group as well. And the battle of our duo from the Czech Republic, Bohunek at the moment tailing Dubeš. Let's see if he can turn over his more experienced teammate with the final run of the season. And that will come up at 15:30 local, 13:30 GMT,
08:30 Eastern, and that is in 1 hour and 10 minutes from now. Join Liz Meyer, me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew for the very final time this season. I can't believe it. We'll see you then in just over an hour.
Sniegs trasē iekšā, kas, protams, arī bremzē Bobus, un rezultāti notika tā, kā tie varētu būt.